Tangled in Tuscany. Chapter 6. The Cake and the Contract. Sophia couldn't remember the last time she'd baked something from scratch. Back in New York, baking had always been aspirational, something other people did on weekends with fresh farmers market eggs and open windows. She'd once attempted muffins with pre-mixed batter and ended up with something that resembled concrete wrapped in a sugar crust. But this morning was different. She stood in Alessia's kitchen, sleeves rolled, wooden spoon in hand, surrounded by the comforting scent of citrus and vanilla. There was something about its rustic simplicity. The confidence of its sun-kissed ingredients looked like it belonged on a postcard of a life she hadn't known she wanted. Now, flour dusted her wrists and a bowl of batter shimmered golden on the counter. Alessia moved gracefully beside her, zesting an orange with effortless precision. "You sure you've never done this before?" Alessia asked, smiling without looking up. "Not like this," Sophia said. "The last time I tried to bake, the fire alarm got more attention than the cake." Alessia chuckled. "The secret is not precision, it's presence." Sophia glanced at her. "Baking asks you to stay," Alessia continued, folding the ingredients gently. "To pay attention. If your mind wanders, the cake knows." Sophia liked that a lot. She exhaled and leaned into the counter, feeling the strange lightness that came when your hands were full and your heart was just quiet enough. "All right," Alessia said, sliding the batter into a cake tin. "Watch the edges. Italian ovens run hot." The kitchen door pushed open just as she slid the tin into the oven. Luca stepped in, and immediately, Sophia felt the shift. He was dressed in a crisp linen shirt, sleeves rolled up, but his collar was slightly uneven, and his jaw carried a tension that hadn't been there yesterday. Alessia caught the look and straightened. "You're back early. Antonio Martelli just left," Luca said. The name clearly meant something. Alessia gave a small, silent nod. Sophia, standing with a mixing spoon still in hand, tilted her head. "Who's Martelli?" Luca's voice was neutral, too neutral. "Wine entrepreneur. He made an offer on the vineyard." Sophia blinked. "You're selling?" Alessia shook her head firmly. "No, we didn't approach him. He reached out after the press from the tasting circuit went live. Said he was interested in partnerships. It didn't take long to realize he meant ownership." Luca leaned against the wall, crossing his arms. "It's not the first offer like that since the campaign began. But he was the boldest." Sophia looked between them. "Is that a bad thing?" Alessia hesitated. "Not always. But Antonio Martelli doesn't buy vineyards. He acquires brands. There's a difference." Luca didn't speak. He stared at the tiled floor like it had insulted him. Alessia turned back to the oven, adjusting the temperature with a quiet sigh. "Give him space. His bark is louder when it's covering something tender." Luca pushed off the wall. "I'll be in the bottling shed." But as he passed Sophia, he paused just a moment too long. His gaze brushed her face. Not harsh, not cold, just removed. Then he walked out. Sophia's heart sank just a little. The cake emerged golden and aromatic 25 minutes later. Alessia let it cool on a wire rack while Sophia prepared a glaze from blood orange juice and powdered sugar. "I think you just passed your Italian grandmother audition," Alessia said, peeking over her shoulder. Sophia laughed. "Good. I could use one." Alessia raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. They glazed the cake together, drizzled with artistic flair and more citrus zest than necessary. It was messy and perfect, and by the time it was set on a ceramic plate, Sophia felt oddly proud. "I'll take it to the courtyard," she said. "Maybe Luca won't scowl at sugar." Alessia smiled. "He never scowls at you, Sophia, that's the difference." Luca was sitting on the low stone wall near the rosemary hedge when she found him, notebook closed in his lap, hands loosely clasped. His posture was relaxed, but his jaw hadn't unclenched. Sophia set the plate down beside him and held up 2 forks. "I bring cake," she said gently, "citrus and diplomacy." He looked at the offering, then at her. "You made this?" "With Alessia." He took a bite, chewing slowly. Then another. "It's good," he said. "That's it. Really good." A pause. "I wasn't expecting it." She smiled but studied him. "You're somewhere else." He didn't pretend otherwise. "I don't like being hunted," he said. She tilted her head. "You think that's what Martelli's doing?" "I think he sees legacy as an asset column." Sophia settled beside him. "You're angry." "I'm unsettled," he corrected. "This place, it's the one thing I've ever been sure about. But now we're exposed, and I agreed to that exposure. Alessia said his visit wasn't your fault." Luca didn't respond right away. Then, "I know. But it feels like opening the front door and finding a real estate agent measuring the windows." Sophia reached for a forkful of cake, chewing thoughtfully. "You know," she said after a minute, "you don't have to protect the vineyard from the world to keep it safe. Maybe it needs to be seen to survive." He glanced at her. "You really believe that?" "I believe in balance," she said. "You're allowed to grow without giving yourself away." Luca didn't say anything, but something in his posture eased. A bird chirped in the lavender bush nearby. The breeze carried the smell of olive trees and warm sugar. "Thank you," he said after a long silence, "for the cake, for being here. Even when I'm not easy." Sophia smiled, her gaze soft. "Who said I like easy?" He looked at her then. A real look, and some of the storm in his eyes cleared. They ate the rest of the cake in silence, forks clinking gently, their shoulders just brushing. After several hours, the mood around the estate had shifted again. Whatever calmed the cake and conversation had offered seemed to have evaporated. It felt like pressure building before another storm. This time, the storm lived behind Luca's eyes again. Antonio's visit, however brief, had stirred something beneath the surface. Luca wasn't rude. He wasn't loud. But Sophia noticed the signs. He was still carrying it. She could see it in the set of his shoulders. The way he moved just a little too quickly through the vineyard. He didn't linger for lunch. He walked faster than usual, spoke more tersely to the workers, and didn't once make eye contact when she passed him near the sorting sheds that afternoon. He was angry. Not just irritated, troubled. And the worst part, he didn't say a word about it. By evening, the sky had turned pale gold and gray again, and the first cicadas began humming lazily in the vines. Sophia stepped onto her guesthouse porch, notebook in hand, a half-written caption open on her laptop screen. She'd been trying to draft sample marketing posts for Alessia, something modern, authentic, and elegant. But her mind wasn't on the captions. It was on him. She'd made the cake as a gesture, something simple to remind him he didn't have to carry everything alone. Instead, he'd turned more inward, as if the taste of something kind had made the pressure worse. She closed her laptop with a sigh and stood, intent on heading back to the kitchen for water, only to pause when she saw movement down the slope. Luca, alone, seated on the old stone bench beneath the walnut tree that overlooked the lower vineyard rows. A bottle in one hand, a glass in the other. She hesitated, and then, barefoot, quiet, she walked toward him. He didn't turn when she approached, didn't say anything. But when she stood beside him, he held up the glass wordlessly and poured her a measure of wine. Sophia sat down beside him, tucking her legs beneath her and accepting the glass. The vineyard below them was still, lit only by the last spill of golden light and the faint glow of distant windows. A low wind rustled the leaves. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Luca broke the silence. His voice was low, tight. He offered 20% above market. "Antonio, you still on it?" A curt nod. "I didn't ask him to come," Luca added after a beat. Martelli's offer wasn't invited. Sophia held her breath. "And I told him to go to hell." A beat passed. "I'm guessing you didn't phrase it that politely," she said, trying to soften the weight. Luca exhaled, the sound more frustration than humor. "No, I didn't." She studied his profile. His jaw was tense, his expression guarded. A shadow of tension still clung to him from earlier, coiled in his shoulders like a rope wound too tight. "You think your mother would have said yes?" Luca took a slow sip of wine. She might have. Not because she wants to, but because she's afraid I'll burn out trying to save something I can't. Sophia hesitated. Would she be wrong? He didn't answer. The silence that followed wasn't easy. It prickled against her skin. You know, she said softly, sometimes giving something away isn't failure. It's just change. I don't want change, he said, voice sharp. I want preservation. Legacy. I want my father's work to mean something. It does, she said. But if you destroy yourself trying to preserve every inch of his vision, you'll lose it anyway. Luca turned to her then. Really turned. His eyes were darker in the twilight, but not cold. I know you mean well, he said. But you don't understand what it means, to be tied to something bigger than yourself. Something you didn't ask for, but can't walk away from. Sophia flinched just a little. Luca noticed. A hint of regret passed through his expression. That wasn't fair. No, she said, after a breath. But maybe it was honest. She looked down at the glass in her hands. I've always been good at walking away, she said. From arguments, from people, from pain. I think it's how I learned to survive. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Sophia smiled faintly. No, it doesn't. They sat together like that for a while. Two people carrying different weights, bound by things they couldn't name. Then, without thinking, Sophia reached out and touched the back of his hand. Just lightly. Just enough. He didn't move. And for a second, the world held its breath. But then he pulled his hand away. Not harshly, just carefully, and stood. I should check the irrigation system, he said. It's late, she said. I know. He hesitated. Then, quieter, thank you. For the cake. She nodded once. You're welcome. He started to walk away, then paused. You're not like anyone else I've met. Is that a compliment? He looked over his shoulder. It's confusing. Then he disappeared into the night. Sophia stayed on the bench long after the sky turned black. Her fingers still tingled from where they'd brushed his skin. He was a man built on duty, pressed tight into armor stitched from memory and guilt. And she had walked into his world with a lens, a limp, and the quiet urge to see everything clearly, including him. She didn't know where this was going, but she knew she wasn't ready to walk away. Not yet.